War is always chaos, but at a brutal -30-degree winter, and it becomes a nightmare. Imagine trying to start a 40-ton tank in a deep freeze, knowing if you fail, you might freeze before the enemy even finds you. This is the reality for hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers right now. The cold is so severe that steel snaps, engines seize, and frostbite sets in within minutes. The Kremlin sent over 700,000 men to Ukraine, but forgot one thing. Every single one needs food, warmth, and shelter. When temperatures drop to Antarctic levels, keeping an army alive becomes nearly impossible. Modern military hardware hates the cold. Lubricants thicken, batteries die, trucks freeze solid. When the trucks stop, so does everything else. Food, ammo, fuel. The mighty Russian war machine becomes a collection of cold, hungry, miserable men stranded in a frozen wasteland. This isn't a minor inconvenience. It's a catastrophic failure of planning. Russian armored columns, once poised for attack, are now just lines of frozen scrap metal, easy targets for Ukrainian drones. For the soldiers, the real enemy isn't across the trench. It's the air itself, cold enough to kill. The front line is a gallery of frozen monuments to incompetence. The battle is no longer against Ukraine, but against hypothermia and despair. The cold is relentless, and it's winning. In this frozen hell, survival is the only victory. For centuries, Russia's greatest ally was General Winter, the cold that defeated Napoleon and Hitler. But this time, the script is flipped. The cold is crippling Russia's own army. The weapon they once relied on has turned against them. The myth of Russian immunity to winter has collapsed. The Kremlin hoped the cold would break Ukraine, but it's paralyzing their own troops instead. The winter hasn't brought victory, it's brought paralysis and humiliation. This is a strategic blunder for the history books. A nation famed for surviving winter, undone by its own arrogance and lack of preparation. They forgot that General Winter demands respect, and warm socks, proper gear, and hot food. By failing to provide the basics, Russia has turned its old ally into its deadliest enemy. The cold is now the traitor in their ranks, and it's not showing mercy. Extreme cold is the great equalizer. It doesn't care about flags or propaganda. If you're unprepared, it will break you. The romantic image of the rugged Russian soldier is just that, an image. In reality, many are poorly equipped conscripts, some elderly or sick, thrown into a frozen meat grinder. The cold exposes every weakness: cheap coats, leaky boots, empty stomachs. Ukrainian soldiers suffer too, but they've adapted over years of war and have better gear from Western allies. For Ukraine, winter is a hardship to overcome. For Russia's unprepared masses, it's the main event. The cold punishes the unprepared, and Russia's military machine is being exposed as hollow and brittle. Logistics are an afterthought, leaves are expendable, and propaganda can't keep you warm. Nature is calling Russia's bluff. The cold is a mirror reflecting the rot within the Russian army. Putin's hoped-for trump card has become his undoing. The great equalizer is at work, and the price is paid in frozen limbs and shattered morale. The cold takes no sides, but it punishes arrogance, and Russia is paying the bill. Logistics is the lifeblood of war, and in a Ukrainian winter, it's a nightmare. Russia's massive army is crippled by the cold. Trucks freeze, fuel gels, batteries die. When a truck breaks down, a whole platoon goes hungry, runs out of ammo, or can't evacuate the wounded. Frozen vehicles clog roads, creating perfect targets for Ukrainian drones and artillery. Supply lines have snapped. Some soldiers go days without resupply. They're forced to forage or hunt. Absurd for a modern army. Fuel for generators runs out, plunging camps into darkness and deeper cold. The lack of supplies is destroying Russia's ability to fight. Soldiers are issued thin coats, leaky boots, and outdated uniforms. No match for the cold. Corruption and incompetence have hollowed out the army's gear. The generals see a huge army on paper, but in reality, it's being gutted by cold and hunger. The logistical collapse isn't just a setback, it's the central crisis of Russia's winter campaign. The war machine is grinding to a frozen halt, and the cold is winning. When a modern army turns to donkeys for supply runs, you know disaster has struck. With trucks frozen and roads impassable, Russian units are using animals to haul ammo straight out of the 19th century. Soldiers wait, hungry and cold, for rations that are often frozen or missing. Malnutrition is rampant. Some are forced to scavenge or hunt just to survive. The fight isn't for territory anymore, it's for food and warmth. Shelter is a shallow trench in the frozen earth. Sleep is a shivering luxury. Morale is crushed. Discipline breaks down as soldiers burn anything for heat, even ammo crates. These aren't the actions of a professional army, but of men pushed to the edge. The donkey isn't a symbol of ingenuity. It's proof of total system failure. Russia's grand war machine has been brought to its knees by cold and chaos. The cold is a silent killer. Its wounds are often invisible, but devastating. Frostbite is rampant. Exposed skin freezes in minutes, leading to amputations and permanent casualties. Hypothermia stalks the trenches, shivering, confusion, and finally, unconsciousness and death. Exhausted, malnourished, and constantly cold, Russian soldiers are living on the edge. The psychological toll is immense. Endless cold, sleepless nights and grinding misery sap the will to fight. Morale collapses. Survival becomes the only goal. This mental exhaustion doesn't show up in casualty reports, but it's crippling the army. Numb hands can't fire rifles, tired minds can't stand sentry. The cold multiplies Ukraine's advantage, turning Russia's army into a sluggish, demoralized target. The real battle is against the elements, and Russia is losing. The cold is claiming more than just fingers and toes. It's destroying the will to fight. In this war, the cold is the deadliest weapon, and it's on Ukraine's side. Russia's massive army has become its greatest liability, feeding, clothing and warming over 700,000 men in a frozen war zone is impossible. The supply system is overwhelmed. The army is too big to move, too big to feed, too big to fight. Long, vulnerable supply lines break down, leaving soldiers cold, hungry, and ineffective. Commanders are forced to halt operations or pull back, ceding ground to Ukraine. The army's size, meant to be its strength, is now its anchor. Every soldier is a potential casualty of cold and chaos. The Kremlin's obsession with numbers has backfired spectacularly. Russia's overwhelming force has become an overwhelming problem. The cold has turned mass into misery. Winter is brutal for Ukrainians too, but they've learned to adapt. Years of war have taught them how to survive the cold. Western support means better gear, thermal clothing, and portable heaters. Ukrainian logistics are nimble. Smaller, mobile units are easier to supply. They move quickly, getting supplies where they're needed most. Morale remains high, even as Russia bombs power plants and plunges cities into darkness. Civilians adapt, using indoor tents and community heating points. Shared hardship has strengthened Ukraine's resolve. For Ukraine, winter is a unifying struggle. For Russia, it's a force of collapse. Ukraine respects General Winter and has prepared accordingly. In the contest of winter resilience, Ukraine is winning. Adaptation, not numbers, is the key to survival. Russia gambled everything on winter, hoping to freeze Ukraine into submission. Instead, the cold has shattered their army and exposed their weaknesses. Casualties are staggering. The economy is bleeding billions. The great Russian offensive is frozen in its tracks. Equipment failing, soldiers starving, morale gone. Drafting the elderly and desperate measures only highlight the crisis. The myth of General Winter as Russia's ally is dead. The cold has proven impartial and unforgiving, exposing incompetence and corruption. This winter will be remembered as the season that broke Putin's regime. Russia's imperial ambitions are frozen in the mud of Ukraine. They gambled on winter and lost everything.